This is the Marathon Handbook Podcast, and it's a very special instant reaction podcast of the 2025 Chicago Marathon. I am joined by the Hawi Feysa of the pod, Katelyn Tocci, the Jacob Kiplimo of our podcast, Mr. Alex Sear, and I am... Guys, I'm the Conner Mance.
Oh, I knew you were going to take Conner Mance.
USA, USA. How many USA chants do you think there were at the finish line today? Many USA chants, I would say. Absolutely. Yes, and rightfully so.
Big day.
We're going to break down all the action that happened in Chicago. It literally just wrapped up moments ago. The three of us just did our talking marathon of our watch along show, and we're sleep deprived, we're malnourished,
calorie deprived,
and ready to roll. The best form of podcasting, Katelyn, you said just before we hit record, we're running on pure adrenaline here. What we're going to talk about, we're going to break down obviously the elite races. We're going to talk about what we think the single biggest storyline each of us thinks dominated this race. And there's a couple of different options there. We're also going to talk about the American performances, one really jaw-dropping one in particular by Conner Mance, which we'll break down in great detail. And then we're going to close this one off by putting into context how we think the Chicago Marathon 2025 edition will be remembered in, say, 5, 10, 20 years. What's the legacy of this year's event? Okay, first thing off the top, Mr. Sear, we'll pull you in. You're remote. You had to fly back from Chicago yesterday back to Toronto. You went to a wedding.
Abandoned us.
You left us.
You left us.
You had a long day and a long night followed by an amazing morning of watching some really spectacular running. What's the single biggest storyline for you coming out of the Chicago Marathon?
This is going to sound like such a bummer, but
oh my God.
No.
The biggest story to me has nothing to do with any of the athletes who ran today. The biggest story of this year's Chicago Marathon is we got to put even more respect on Kelvin Kiptum's name.
Yeah.
Yes.
2 days ago, Michael and I hosted a live podcast. You asked me, Michael, what was the theme of the weekend, what I thought this marathon was going to be about. My idea was this is a marathon of opportunity. The weather's going to be nice. The course is fast. Many pacers are there. Not all pacers. That's another story maybe for a bit later. A lot of good American local runners, a lot of good East African runners, especially on the men's side. On paper, it looked to be the race of the year. And the race is over now, and no one came within a minute and a half of Kelvin Kiptum's record-breaking, record-setting time of 2023, reaffirming how incredibly impressive that run was. When Kelvin Kiptum set that record, he did it on the back of several excellent Eliud Kipchoge performances, several of his own, Kelvin Kiptum's own 201 performances. I think it was lost on us how goddamn impressive a 2 flat. Sorry, that's the explicit mark. Okay, we're going to have to rate the podcast with a little.
No, I think we're okay.
You can curse God. That's fine. It's just the other words you can't say on YouTube. Go on.
Okay. Well, then we're still in the clean. I don't think we really understood how impressive 2 flat 35 was when Kelvin Kiptum ran it, because we just expected that, well, so next up, someone's going to go 159. Today was the day for that. It didn't happen. It didn't even come close. There were a bunch of really interesting and promising performances. We'll get into those, but that's what stuck out at me at first. Just a little gut check of how impressive a 2 flat was and how hard that is to replicate and even surpass.
Tocci, why don't you? We need a palate cleanser from Mr. Sears,
something positive.
Just spicy,
something
mean
positive
take there.
Okay.
Let's go. Give us something positive.
You know me. Of course, it's going to be positive. So, to continue to mention Kelvin Kiptum. I mean, I think that what we have here, and one of the biggest storylines, is that after a couple of years, just about, we have been covering marathons and we have been saying that we haven't seen anything close, but not even close, not even a glimmer of a hope that we were going to start to get people running these times again, get the men's times into the 201s and the 202. And I think that now we have that hope with Jacob Kiplimo. I think that he's still, and I know that Kelvin Kiptum, advanced faster, but I still do think that Jacob Kiplimo has that in him to be able to be that next person, trying to follow in Kiptum's footsteps. So I think that now we have that hope and he's on his way. Half marathon world record holder. He just maybe needs a little bit more practice in the marathon. Maybe today he went out a little too fast. And if he a
little too fast, just a touch.
We will get to that. But I think that perhaps with a little bit better pacing, he may already be at that fitness level. Who knows? He may be already there, but just the execution isn't quite there. So I would say my positive take on it is that we have the person. He's there. He just maybe needs to be molded to get those times.
Yeah, I'd say, and I guess we're sort of like melding the what's the biggest storyline with breaking down the men's race, because I'm going to go 3 for 3 here and talk more about Jacob Kiplimo as well. I think you guys are, I think you're both right. I think that everyone gets a prize here. I think that it was a tantalizing performance. I think it was there was some rookie mistake stuff going on, and I would almost say it's not even his fault, because there was decision making about what the pacing was going to be. And then I don't know what the heck happened, but it completely went out the window. One of the craziest things, and it's sort of sneaky, one of the craziest things I've ever witnessed covering this sport for 15 years now, is the fact that I think Chicago didn't post the official race leaderboard, did not post the lead packs 5K split, because I think they thought it was wrong. So it was they didn't post the top 5 or 6 guys for many minutes after they went over the first 5K timing mat, because they ran 13:50. 13:30. No, hold on. Where is it? 13:58. 13:58 at least is what Kiplimo got tagged with. He may have even been a second behind, because I don't think he was in the front of that pack. So they went sub 14 minutes for the first 5K. And that's 1:54 pace.
Oh my goodness.
It's 1:54 marathon pace.
So maybe I was being a little conservative when I said they went out a little too fast. They went out way too fast.
I mean, I'm sure somebody will dig this up eventually, but I'm going to wager a guess that that's the fastest 5K split in marathon history. Any 5K split, it's unfathomable that pace, and maybe perhaps set them up for a little bit of a struggle in the end. Certainly in the last 5K for Kiplimo, even though he ran really well overall. But I would say, the biggest storyline was, it's not even so much Kiplimo being the big storyline, I don't think, or John Korir struggling and ultimately dropping out of the race, which was pretty surprising. I think the big storyline was just how hard at the world record and the sub 2 hour barrier these guys went, and how willing they were to just risk it all.
Exactly. Yeah.
And maybe to a stupid degree, quite frankly, because that first 5K is bananas and makes no sense. But I think that's the storyline that we are now going to see a lot. I think every flat course, every world-class big race, I think in December in Valencia, you're going to see this as well. I think you're probably even going to see this in races like Dubai next year, and races that will be willing to throw money at runners to try crazy things. I think you're going to start seeing this more and more. That's my big takeaway from this. I think that's the big storyline.
Yeah, I think also just because you now have a cast of characters who I think are able to get there. But I do agree with you, Katelyn, saying that Kiplimo might be on a collision course with the record. It's just that collision course is a bit longer than maybe we thought it could be. I think we now have a select group of men in the world who have a shot at it if training goes well in the next few years. John Korir still factors into that despite today. This is like his first strike, I guess. He's been incredibly consistent, and today we don't really know what happened to him, but he dropped out just a little bit after the halfway mark. Everyone has bad days. That's how it goes. Kiplimo has proven to be a very auspicious marathoner. Only 2 marathons. He's already down to 2:02. And then I couldn't stop but think, what would have happened if Sebastian Sawe had chosen to do Chicago and not Hot Berlin this year, where, by the way, he ran faster in Hot Berlin than Kiplimo did here today in Chicago. So it's like you have a small cast of characters who will challenge that. And then, okay, I feel like we're just going deep into the weeds of the men's race. So should we just keep doing that and talk about the American race? Because
which is storyline too.
I've got one note to add before we pivot to Mr. Mance, and that is I took a look at Kelvin Kiptum's 5K splits for his world record from 2023. I looked at Kipchoge's splits from when he had previously run the 2:01:09 record in Berlin, as well as Sawe's recent performance also, because that's right up there, compared to Kiplimo and company's splits in the opening parts of the Chicago Marathon. I have a correction to make. I think the fastest 5K split in history actually comes from Kiptum. He ran 13:51 for 5K between kilometers 30 and 35.
Oh my goodness, that's right.
That makes sense. Do you know why that makes sense? There was a moment during this race where I was convinced that Kiplimo was going to break the record, and it was at 30K. Because at 30K, he had a full minute on Kelvin Kiptum's time at 30K in Chicago. And so I thought it was a done deal. But there you go. That's when Kiptum really got some time. Imagine throwing down a 13:51 between kilometers 30 and 35. Kiplimo did not do that. Kiplimo roughly held on to pace, slowed down a little bit, as marathoners usually do, even elite ones at this point of the race. And so just like that, I think in the next 5K, he lost about 40 seconds on Kiptum.
Yeah, Kiplimo, in a superhuman version of what he did, basically it was a very relatable performance in a weird way. It's a weird thing to say that someone who ran 2:02 is super relatable to the common runner, but he kind of struggled in the same way a lot of us struggle in a marathon, which is you get to about 35K and the wheels are starting to the bolts are loose, they're rattling around, maybe the back wheel flips off and you're kind of like, you're not as efficient anymore and you're hanging on for dear life and you're seeing your pace starting to slip. And that was what was happening. It was really that he was running a lovely race, sub 5-minute miles all the way through. And then the last about 5 kilometers or so, he was starting to slip a little bit. And that's what cost him running the 2:01 and the outside shot of maybe the world record. Okay. Let's pivot to Mr. Mance. Let's talk about the American record. Were you guys surprised by how aggressively he went out for this record?
I think that after watching his interviews and watching him speak after the press conference when he hooked up with a bunch of different reporters, he seemed very confident, and I love that aggressive way that he runs. So to be honest, with what I was hearing from all of the other runners, I kind of had a feeling he was going to be strong, and he wasn't, because even Rory Linkletter had mentioned, like, I would like to stick with Conner from the beginning, but I'm not quite so sure how fast he's going to go out. I remember him saying that. And so it wasn't so much of a surprise to me. Alex?
Yeah, no, I think the first 5K might have been a little bit rich for what they were hoping to do. But after that, 14:23, but they announced in the press conference that he wanted to go out in 62. And so I expected him to go out that hard. I think the surprise came at the first 5, obviously.
Yes.
But when you think about it, Conner Mance is doing 2 races. He's racing himself for the North American record. We could say he was racing Rory Linkletter as well. Hindsight 2020, it was more Mance's day than Rory's day.
Yeah.
But either way, he was chasing that North American record. And also, and even though he didn't voice this so much in press conferences and just interviews from before the race, he's a guy who's looking for his first major marathon podium finish. And if he thought he stood a chance at the North American record, it would follow that he would think that he'd have a chance at the podium. Yeah. So even though Kiplimo, and Korir are in the race, I don't think if I'm Mance, I want to let them get away that far. So yeah, their pace will influence his pace. He was smart not to go out with them. That would have just been incredibly bonkers. Conner Mance is an incredible athlete. He has no business running at 1:54 marathon pace. Neither does anybody. He actually ran smarter than the first 3 guys. And then he had a big chase group to run with. Like, this was a collective decision, I think, between a bunch of world-class runners who just decided to go balls to the wall from the start. Zuhair Talbi was there, Jeffrey Kamworor, Rory Linkletter. There's a bunch.
I want to know, I want to hear from the elite athletes. I also want to talk to runners in the field as well about what that first 5 kilometers was like. Because it seemed like it was this really unusual phenomenon, at least with the elite athletes, that they all went out so hard in the first 5K. It's one thing to see the leaders of the race that are going to pace out in 2:01 pace get very zesty and aggressive, and they're running something like really, really quick. It's another thing to see then Mance, who, really was focused on that American record, and he still paced it at was 2:01 pace, that 14:23, more or less, right? If I'm not mistaken. That is crazy town pace. Was there something going on out there in the first 5K? There wasn't a big tailwind. Sometimes you get a big tailwind, and that's actually the reason why you see everyone kind of going crazy in the first part of a race, is because you got that big push behind you and everyone just feels amazing and they get carried away. But in this case, there was not a whole lot of wind out there, and Chicago is not like a big steep downhill first 5K. Just a really weird phenomenon that I'm kind of fascinated by.
So last January, 2 weeks before the Houston Half Marathon, my coach made me do what he called the impossible workout. 30 minutes at threshold pace, followed by 1 kilometer of kicking, even faster. All of it at half marathon pace, which for me is about 4:56 per mile.
You had to slide that one in there, didn't you, sir?
My point is that running on frozen roads near my house in Toronto to do this workout sounded daunting, and going to some gym and running on a regular treadmill sounded even worse. Luckily, Michael had a Wahoo Kicker Run treadmill stashed in his home in northern Toronto, and so I took advantage of that last winter.
So that's why you kept coming over to my house all the time.
I mean, I also came for the company.
Sure.
And mainly for the Kicker Run's Run Free mode, where the treadmill uses sensors to adjust its carpet speed so that it can respond to your running speed in real time. So it responds to you, and not the other way around. Now that was helpful for the workout's kick portion, so I could accelerate naturally without having to worry about pressing buttons all the time. The treadmill also comes with the lateral tilt feature, which will simulate the angles of running on a natural terrain. So every step is not the same, which is a good thing. And it's kind of like if you're running outdoors. And bonus, the Kicker Run connects with a laundry list of third-party apps, including Strava, the Wahoo Run app, and Zwift. So you can run free in Watopia.
It's quiet, simple, and effective. The treadmill follows you and not the other way around. It's available in the US, the UK, Germany, and Austria. And now you can get a free Headwind Smart Fan worth $319 when you order the Kicker Run from Wahoo Fitness using the promo code MHRUN. That's all one word, MHRUN. Take our word for it, as well as the professional athletes that use it, including ultra runner David Roche, triathlete Chelsea Sodero, Olympic gold medalist Cole Hawker.
And now, me.
Okay, let's get to the show. So do we think that Mr. Mance everyone does this. You finish your race, you cross the finish line. I've talked to elite athletes before. They do the exact same thing that us mere mortals do. You cross the finish line, you're really pumped and satisfied. You're like, I ran a PR. I did what I came out to do today. That was amazing. And then immediately within like 30 seconds, you're like, maybe I could have run 30 seconds faster. Maybe I could have like passed that guy that was like just ahead of me and struggling, and I didn't reel him in. It's like you start kind of getting greedy in your own mind, and you're like, wow, why didn't I do this? Why didn't I do that? Next time I could do this. Do you think that Mance is like 2 fourth place finishes in a row? Do you think that that's holding any real estate in his mind? That's haunting him right now as he's, having the painful post-marathon shower.
Likely. I would say so, just given that he's a competitive guy. I'll say 2 things. One, I do think that while there were 2 races, as I said, in Mance's head, his main goal was the North American record. That kind of came through in pre-race interviews. And so I think there's a part of him that likely feels like it's mission accomplished. Because not only did he beat Katelyn Tocci's 23-year-old American record, he destroyed it. And so I think that's mission accomplished. But on the other side of things, I'm not sure how much Mance knew while on the course. It's almost impossible to know where you stand and how close you are to the people ahead of you at that time, especially when a few athletes have already broken you a while ago. But Mance was in a 7-man race for 3rd place. That was the reality in the last 5 kilometers. Kiplimo was gone. Amos Kipruto was also too far ahead. Korir was out. I don't know if Mance knew that, right?
Right.
Maybe not. Did he realize that that Kiplagat had shot out the back and that he had passed him? There were about 7 men vying for that 3rd spot, and there was a lot of movement in those places in the last 5K. And I think if I'm Mance, I wish I would have beaten Alex Masai, but Alex Masai was just the best of those 7 runners today. He just closed better. Mance did better than Cam Waror. He did better than Rory. He did better than Kiplimo. I think there's a lot to be proud of for Conner Mance. I just think Alex Masai, he kind of shocked everybody and to beat him and climb on the podium.
Yeah. And the 2 of them worked together quite a bit. And I noticed in the finishing shoot, they chatted quite a bit afterwards. They were having like a back and forth, and it seemed really amicable. Masai trains for Northern Arizona Elite with that Hoka group. And there seemed to be like a good camaraderie between the 2 of them. And they were more or less like working together and basically got the best out of each other on the day. And that's a huge jump for this guy, Masai. It's like a 4-minute personal best for him. I mean, he must be over the moon right now. And we'll talk about, because he's a Hoka athlete. Like, who knew Hoka has fast shoes suddenly? Or at least a fast human that runs in their shoes. So we'll talk about brands and the shoe wars in a minute here, because, it wouldn't be a Marathon Handbook podcast without nerding out about the shoes at some point here. We'll take a temp check on the power rankings of the super shoes in a second here.
But that is one of my questions, what Alex mentioned as well, because when you're running a race, unless you have people on your side on the sidelines or you have people telling you what's going on, I wonder if either of those 2 knew their position in the race. Like they probably didn't. Did they know they were fighting for 3rd place? Now, I feel, and I do not, I know that you guys have both met Conner Mance, but from just watching him race and listening to him speak and speaking with you guys, I feel like he's one of those athletes that is such a competitor that he's going to give it his all no matter what. So if he thought he was fighting for 3rd place or 4th place or 5th place, I think he would still probably give it his all at that end in that final split. I mean, he's just that kind of person. Maybe another runner would need that little bit of a push to give it their all at the very end. But I feel like he gives it his all every single time he goes out there and runs. At least that's the way it looks, and that seems to be his attitude. And if I were him, I mean, I would probably maybe be questioning it as well about that 3rd place, but I hope 4th place, but I hope that he can put it out of his head and just say, I just absolutely smashed the American record. And he needs to revel in that and not even think about that podium finish. That podium finish is right around the corner for him in a major marathon.
Do you think, how much candy do you think that this guy is just absolutely smashing right now? Alex, you asked him, I think in Boston, what his guilty pleasure was, and he was like, candy.
What kind of candy?
He's not a drinker. He is Mormon, and they do not consume the alcohol. So he's not lighting the town up this evening. But I hope he enjoys a
sugar high,
a good dinner, and
a nice
whole
pack
bunch
of Swedish berries. Ooh.
That's right.
Oh,
Swedish
the
fish.
Swedish fish.
Yes,
Uh-huh.
exactly.
Swedish fish.
They do berries in Canada, fish in the United States. I wonder what they do. Wonder what they do in Sweden. They just call them
fish
and berries.
Fish.
I'm not sure. Yeah.
It's like, what? There are real fish in the ocean?
Yeah.
How much
What
did he?
can
I saw him eat 2 candies, by the way. I gave him a bag of candy at the press conference.
Yes, you did.
You
Yeah.
did.
I did. Yeah, and he ate it right in front of me.
It was an offering. One note on his performance before we move on to the women's races is a deceptive performance. If you go 5K by 5K split, it's a little more all over the place. But if you just go first half, second half, guy looks like a genius. He ran 102.19 for the first half split and then finished the race in 204.43 for that new American/North American record. So
it looks textbook. If
it
you look
looks
at it
textbook
in half marathons.
if you don't take in the opening 5K that was 201 pace, it looks like he's just like a metronome out there. Okay, so women's race. Hawi Feysa of Ethiopia, she was just kind of there the entire time. I got a question for you guys. Was this exciting? Exciting's not fair because marathon running is kind of like watching a marathon broadcast can be sometimes like watching a midseason baseball game or like third round of a golf tournament where it's like you're just kind of hanging out for a while, taking stuff in, and you're appreciating the details. I appreciate the details of her performance, but I'm wondering if, as a fan of running, you found this compelling content.
Okay, so let me make an admission that might get me in trouble.
Okay.
Yep.
Today, I spent a lot more time thinking about the men's race than the women's race. It's not a usual thing for me. I like both equally, even if I'm a man who runs. However, on paper, the men's race had world record potential, and the women's race was wide open, which is like interesting in itself, but also did not come as advertised that there would be someone on this field who was going to run the 5th fastest time in marathon in the history of marathons, which happened. Right. And so I was in it for the Korir versus Kiplimo. I was in it for the Conner Mance American record. There's no American record attempt, no real threatening one on the women's side. And so the women's race crept up on me. And it was about at 30 kilometers where I thought, you know what? I think we're watching something special from Hawi Feysa. And we're all too blinded by the American record attempt and the Kiplimo second marathon and what happened to John Korir to really see. And so once I got dialed in, I realized I think she is going to be a big part of the future of marathoning. Huge personal best for her. Was it entertaining? Okay, so I'm a big times guy, as you could probably tell. I love to see.
Really?
I love this. I'm a sucker for people chasing the clock. And once I realized where she was and what she was doing and how close she was, then I got really dialed in. Then it became interesting to me. But yeah, it was kind of like the men's race, whereas, after 30K, it was one runner running, right? It would have been cool to have 2 or 3.
Yeah, I think this might actually be a hot take. I think she had the best performance the entire Chicago Marathon.
No, I agree.
I think it was by far the best performance, actually. I think the guys' performances were kind of all over the place. I think Conner Mance probably had the second best performance of the big name performers on the day. Besides Alex Masai, he also had an extraordinary performance too. So they were kind of like side by side in that respect. Of course, overshadowed by the fact that like Mance is American soil, American record. It's going to get all that play. But I think Howie Feisa's performance was like one tier better than everybody else's, even though I think Jacob Kiplimo obviously is a total star, and I'm super excited to see what he does next, and ran one of the great marathon performances in history on paper as well. But I'm going to coin a new, hopefully this will stick. Hopefully this will stick better than our hyper shoe, super shoe that we've been using for the last year, Alex, and we're just like begging somebody else to start calling like the top end super shoes hyper shoes, kind of like
Hasn't
cars.
stuck yet?
No, it's
Okay.
not sticking at all.
Not yet.
But I'm gonna call what Hawi Feysa nearly pulled off, not quite, but almost what I would categorize as the immaculate marathon. Okay, so you can have a perfect inning in baseball as a pitcher, where you
no hitter.
You can write a perfect game.
Yeah.
You can and you can also have like it's called an immaculate inning where you basically pitch. I think the actual immaculate inning is 9 pitches, 9 strikes, 3 outs. It may have happened a couple of times in the history of baseball. Perfect games, there's a bunch of them, but they're also extremely rare. This was very close to being what I would call an immaculate marathon performance because her pacing was so close to perfect. She was running 2:15.00 pace for like every 5K split. She slowed ever so slightly for a mile towards the very end in mile 25 split and mile 25.2 split were a little bit shaky. But apart from that, she basically went 2:15 pace all the way through and then finished in 2:14.56. I got to figure out the exact numbering here, but if like you're within, say, like 3 seconds overall in every 5K split and you finish in that time as well, you get an immaculate marathon performance. It's the dream we all have.
Right.
It's like the know thyself. I think we talked about this in the watch along show, is that my big belief is that marathon running is the ultimate test of how well do you know yourself? How honest are you with yourself? How well are you able to figure out what you can do on the day doing this extremely hard thing? And Hawi Feysa is like basically one of the masters at it because she ran the 5th best marathon time in women's history and then also did it by like just putting on a total clinic in the process.
Yeah.
Crazy. It's tough to appreciate it when you're not watching the fireworks in a big exciting race. She just did it on her own, but super cool performance.
Yeah, having like a near perfect race. And what impressed me about her as well is that not only did she run those events, because every time we refreshed, we were like, whoa, again, 2:15. Whoa, again. So not only did she hit, I love mentioning the PRs, a massive PR and the 5th fastest time, but what I loved is that she started looking at her watch after that slower mile towards the end. She's like, and she's like, oh my gosh, I'm going to get under 2:15. That must have been, or I'm not going to get under 2:15 if I stay at this pace. And just with about, I think it was probably around 600, 800 meters to go, she just picked it up and looked at her watch and picked up the pace and got in under the 2:15. So I think to have that gas in the tank is also amazing. Like you were patient and amazing and you just ran the entire race perfectly and evenly. But at the end you said, I got to get this time. And she just took off. And I love that. That's amazing control. If you have that control when you're running a marathon, you're a master to me because I clearly don't have that control.
So one more note for Feysa, I think we should really consider her as one of the prime and most exciting marathon prospects in the world right now. Here's a little snapshot. As I mentioned, she's the 5th fastest marathoner in history. That list includes Ruth Chepngetich. So maybe we take her out right now. Maybe we take her out. That puts Feysa at 4th. Who's run faster? Tigist Assefa, Sifan Hassan, Bridget Kosgei.
Wow.
And that's it. Okay.
That's crazy.
Feysa also looks good on paper. She's got like, you talk about the Immaculate Marathon. The Immaculate World Athletics page, let's call it.
Okay.
This is what you need to have an Immaculate World Athletics page. You have to have spent some time on the track to have developed your speed. I think if you want to be the best marathoner in the world, you need to have that track background. The other greats all have it. Kipchoge, Bekele, Assefa, you name it. She's been a 1,500 meter and 3,000 meter runner in the late 2010s. She moved up to the marathon in 2020. She dropped to 2:23 and a 2:24 in her first marathon, so a bit of a learning curve. She goes down to 2:17 flat earlier this year in Tokyo And now, boom, another 2-minute improvement in just the course of a few months. She's 26 years old. She's got a bunch of time.
Yes, she does.
I am very bullish on Feysa now. And if I could see her personally, I would apologize for having spent so much time fretting over Mance's paces today, because this was a heck of a race unfolding. And no, I'm just kidding. I also really loved following Mance's paces. But I guess a lot of things were happening at the same time. So far, 2025 has been the best running year of my life. I've had 3 personal bests in the 5K, the 10K, and the half marathon. And I don't think the secret is that complicated. I just haven't been getting injured. I think a big reason for that is that I've started to take my post-run hour much more seriously. So instead of sitting on the couch, eating empty snacks, and watching reruns of The Office, I've been taking Momentous creatine. So it's become a bit of a habit. I take it after my run. I like their flavorless white creatine powder. It dissolves in a glass of water. Sometimes I put it in a recovery beverage, and I have it after the run. I've never been a huge supplements guy, but with the Momentous creatine, there's no fear. It's NSF certified. It's used by a bunch of pro athletes, also every NFL team, and even the US military. Now, my goals are probably a little bit different from those of your classic infantry officer. I take it to help my muscles recover so that I'm ready for the next day's run. And bonus, we're also learning that creatine may be fuel for the brain. And so I like to think that it helps me stay sharp for this podcast and ensures that I always have something to respond to Katelyn and her wild facts and Michael and his sarcastic jokes. Right now, Momentous is offering our listeners up to 35% off their first subscription order with promo code Marathon. So go to livemomentous.com and use promo code Marathon for up to 35% off your first subscription order. That's livemomentous.com, promo code Marathon. Back to the show.
Yeah, there's like layer upon layer of storylines here. I think the final big one to cover in the elite races is the American women, which very much like the overall women's race was a little wide open. And although some very familiar names, and Natasha Rogers, who we mentioned on the Watch Along show, basically nearly, from my understanding, nearly quit the sport at one point last year. She is running in just her 3rd marathon. First marathon was, by her account, a disaster at the U.S. Olympic trials in Orlando last year, which is just as, like, I was there. It was a brutal day. It's hot.
So hot,
It was
right?
so hot. It was like
Florida, right?
It's like running a marathon in Orlando.
Yeah, why?
What?
Why?
Yeah,
I don't
no.
understand
Anyway.
it to this day.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So she had a really tough go. It didn't work out for her. And she was also, I think she also maybe experienced some injury and some burnout from it. Made a lot of changes. Had a pretty good race, had a great race in Japan, a women's only marathon in February where she ran 2:23. And then she follows it up with, I believe it was like a nice, less than a minute, like a 20-something second personal best with another 2:23. And she's the top woman in Chicago, and by all accounts looks like super pumped about it. She crossed the finish line, seemed really happy. It's a big deal to be the top man or woman in Chicago on the American side. It's a point of pride, and it's sort of the race within the race. So question for both of you is what exiting Chicago, going into New York and beyond, what's the landscape like with American women's marathoning right now? Cyril, I'll let you take it first.
I think it's a little bit open. I think it's still wide open. I keep going back to this idea of opportunity. Chicago was the race of opportunity for someone to really break through and become the next American great distance runner. And I think to do that, you need to challenge that 2:20 mark, especially on a fast course where there are no excuses. I think Rogers, Popane, Gabby Rooker, Emily Venters are all very strong prospects, but they're still prospects. if you know what I mean. I don't think someone is yet there to fill Kira D'Amato's shoes or even Sarah Hall's shoes. And that's exciting, but also a little not concerning, but I'm also kind of waiting to see who that next athlete is. I think what America needs, especially on the women's side, is maybe a Conner Mance equivalent of an athlete who's either early or midway through their marathoning career to drop a big time that can compete with everyone across the Atlantic. Like you mentioned, Michael, earlier this week, you talked to Cyprian Katut, one of the top male Kenyan marathoners, and he said that when they're strategizing for their race, they're thinking about Conner Mance. Conner Mance is a factor, and hey, Conner Mance did beat him today, right? So he was right to think that. I'm not sure if we have an equivalent American athlete on the women's side who strikes fear in the eyes of, say, Hawi Feysa or Megurtu Alemu.
Yeah. I mean, I think Emily Sisson is almost there.
Yep.
She's maybe where Conner Mance was recently, and Mance has just taken that next step now. I don't know how, like, just if we did a straight up conversion of Sisson's 2:18:29 American record, what that equals. That's what that equals out in terms of if you did like the conversion of a comparable men's time. I wouldn't be surprised if it's not that far off right now, but it does feel like Mance took that like one step, and Sisson could take that step. She's still in her prime. She's in her early 30s. She's running New York next month.
Oh, okay.
New York is obviously not as speedy a course as Chicago, but if she could podium in New York, that would be a huge step forward for her. She's been on the podium at a major before. She was second place in Chicago a couple of years ago when she ran that American record behind Ruth Cheptegei a couple of years ago when Cheptegei first won New York or Chicago. So I would say, like, let's give Sisson an opportunity over the next 12 months with a couple of marathons, and hopefully stays healthy and stays at her A game. Perhaps she has the similar breakthrough, and in a year's time we're excitedly talking about Sisson coming back to Chicago and trying to do something special just like Mance did this year. We could definitely see that. But you're right. Besides that, it's kind of feeling wide open. One note we just pulled up, Emily Venters, the Nike athlete training in Utah. We talked a little bit about her in the watch along show. I think there's a good amount of hype around her going into the race. They had her on the stage, Alex, when we were there at the press conference on Friday. A lot of confidence in her. Lovely human being. Both Alex, you spoke with her. I spoke with her separately as well, and really smart person. Got a head screwed on tightly on her shoulders correctly, and was also very like deferential and respectful towards the marathon distance.
Right.
And she had a tough day. We're just looking at the splits here.
Yeah, I
almost feel bad talking about it because I imagine this is like
something happened. Yeah, something happened.
Well, there's a split. So she ends up finishing. She actually finished, which is like kudos to her. Hats off to her that she finished.
That's my favorite thing, when an elite athlete does not back out just because they're not going to have the time they were planning on. So kudos to her. Exactly.
So she finished. She walked a chunk of it. You can tell by the splits there. She had like she was walking like 1449 kilometers at 40K. So she was
something happened.
She walked it in and then jogged it in the end there and finished.
That's a champ to me. I'm telling you to do that.
But keep an eye on her in the future, because
her.
that'll be a learning experience for her, and hopefully her and others in their like early to mid 20s take up marathoning as a pro relatively early in their career. It used to be that you'd stay on the track for a really long time, and then sort of in the twilight of your track career, as you were fading and not able to make national teams anymore, you would drift over to the marathon and your 30s, and it would sort of almost be too late. We're seeing a changing of the guard and a changing of attitude globally right now, but also specifically in terms of American distance running, which is cool. And I mean, it's where the money is too. So that's neat.
I would also like to see another attempt from Dakota Popane, because she was very, very confident in the interviews before
Yeah.
this race,
Yeah.
and really had her heart set on a sub 220, and said that her fitness was there and she was really feeling those paces in all of her training. So I just feel as though, okay, yep, today, I mean, it's marathoning. If the stars don't align for you in every single possible perfect way, you can just, you'll be a few minutes off your time or have a rough day. So I also wouldn't count her out quite yet and see what the future holds.
Okay, so let's talk shoes.
Okay.
The shoes that won the Chicago Marathon.
Hoka on the podium.
Hoka on the podium. The big surprise of the day. I don't know. Okay, so on the women's side, we can surmise that was the Pro Evo that she was wearing, correct? Feysa?
Yeah. I have
She's an Adidas athlete.
Yes. I have a podium here that I've managed to put together by creeping a bunch of very helpful Instagram accounts, actually, who I think are kind of dedicated to this.
Yes.
So
there are dedicated shoe nerd that are specifically focused on what the shoes are that, the top 10 shoes in each major and stuff like that. It's great stuff.
It's awesome. Yeah. And I guess I won't shout one out because I found it from a bunch of different places. And so thank you to all of you collectively. So a lot of surprises. So yes, Pro Evo 1 for Hawi Feysa. I'm guessing that if she wanted a pair of Pro Evo 2s, she probably could have found a pair.
Yeah.
So interesting that she likes those more. It just goes to show that, yeah, the Pro Evo 1s and the Pro Evo 2s are quite different. The Evo 2s technically are supposed to be better, but the drop is the biggest difference between the two, because with the Pro Evo 2, they've raised the toe a little bit. So maybe it's a situation where Feysa likes a higher, more pronounced heel to toe drop, and she went for the Pro Evos. I have no idea, but interesting choice to not go with the best and go with last year's version.
Yeah.
On that topic of not going with the best possible shoe from a brand, second place, Murgetu Alemu, wearing a pair of Nike, not Alphaflys, but Vaporfly 4s, apparently.
Oh, get out.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So they looked like Vaporflies. There's my inkling that they were Vaporflies. Others have reported that they were Vaporflies. So doubly weird. One, it's odd that she wasn't wearing the Alphafly 3s or even the prototype that Conner Mance was wearing. She was wearing what effectively is Nike's, I guess, third best shoe right now. Yeah. So weird. The Vaporfly is smaller. It's lighter. It doesn't have as much power to it. If you're a fan of really lightweight shoes, maybe you're just more of a Vaporfly person. Maybe that's the case with Alemu. But anyway, Vaporfly 4s hit the women's podium. And then we have a pair of ASICS Metaspeed Sky Tokyos worn by Magdalena Shari in third place. You know what's funny about these ASICS shoes? So, Michael, you spoke with John Korir. The landscape of elite shoes, but elite ASICS shoes is a little complicated. So there are three top-notch shoes, and two of them are basically twins or clones of each other. They are the Metaspeed Sky and Edge. They have tiny, tiny differences. They're meant to be as good as each other, but every pro that we've spoken with or that we've heard from, they tend to favor the Sky over the Edge. I'm not sure why, but that seems to be common. And then also, as an ASICS athlete, you have the choice of racing in one of those two clone shoes or the Metaspeed Ray, which is lighter and a little bit mushier and is just made with one type of foam that's just their lightest foam and not the foam that's a bit more rigid and powerful. And so they're two very different feeling shoes. John Korir himself said he wasn't sure if he'd race in the Ray or in the Metaspeed just before the race. And it turns out that I guess Shari chose to go with the Metaspeed Tokyo. So it's podium for ASICS. So that's on the women's side.
That's really interesting that that with the Adidas athletes that they're still supporting the first iteration of the Pro Evo. They obviously still have new pairs or are producing new pairs to get on these athletes' feet, and they're still doing these two versions, which is really interesting. And then ASICS having three different shoes is just kind of nuts, but cool. I mean, I think it's great. Yeah. So on the men's side has got one. It's actually got No, it's got one weird outlier, and then the Mantz shoe we'll talk about in a second. So that's the 4th place shoe. But let's go through the podium on the men's side.
Okay, so from what I could tell, I think Jacob Kiplimo was wearing your plain old Alphafly 3s. I don't think that was a prototype, unless he was. So here's what's a little bit tough for me to figure out. The prototype, which I guess we can call it the Alphafly 4. We're pretty sure that's what it's going to be called. That's been
for now,
kind of leaked-ish here and there. Looks a lot like the Alphafly 3 in its construction. The way you can tell that Conner Mance was wearing a prototype and not the Alphafly 3 was in the colorway. That was a little bit different.
Yes.
Kiplimo wore, we call it the Harry Styles colorway now, the crimson red and yellow, which is now common in Vaporfly 4s and Alphafly 3s. And so I'm quite certain that it was a regular Alphafly 3 that he wore and not the Nike prototype.
You know, that orange and green, the colorway could almost be rebranded as watermelon sugar. Is that?
Oh God!
Oh,
Hey, good job, Michael. You got one.
There we go. You know, the old guys still got it. I know what the kids are listening to.
Although, are you colorblind? Because that's totally red and yellow. But
yeah,
good call, Alex.
He's forcing the pun. No, it's green.
It is super weird that Jacob Kiplimo, world record holder in the half marathon, you know, #1 guy by a long shot for Nike on the start line, and a guy that they're, I guess, should be positioning as like their next great marathon runner. Clearly, he won the bloody race today. Didn't get to wear the prototype shoe. What the heck, man?
It's really weird. It's really
but
weird.
Maybe it's his personal preference. Maybe he wanted to go. Maybe he wanted to go into the race with something that he's 100% comfortable with.
Don't try anything new on race day.
Exactly. That would be Coach Katelyn's advice. Yes. Don't try that prototype until after the race.
Don't try the prototype until after the race.
That's what you tell your athletes. It's just don't try the new.
My athletes.
Okay, yeah, fair enough. So number 3 guy. No, wait a minute. Did we just jump number 2? I'm like lost in the sauce right now here. Number 2 guy. What was the shoe? The silver medal shoe.
You can't have a podium in 2025 without a Adidas Pro Evo 2. So that was his shoe. The only way I found out was thank you to Amos Caputo for taking part in the viral and now mildly annoying flat athlete trend.
The flat lay.
Like you post your singlet and your shorts and your shoes and everything flat on a bed and take a picture before race day. So we saw the Pro Evo 2s there and then on his feet on the race. So
Conner Mance did the exact same thing too. He did the spread before the race on race morning too. So
I've done it too. We've all done it, I think.
I've done it too. Not gonna lie. You've not done it.
I have not done it.
Michael would not have done it.
Because I'm a ghost on the internet. I have not done it. I'm also much like John Korir, selecting which shoes and what I'm going to wear. Like
morning of
at like 4:30 in the morning before the start of the race. Yeah. So yes. So and then the 3rd shoe.
That's the coolest thing I think about this podium. So Alex Masai finished 3rd wearing what we only know as a Hoka development shoe or a prototype. Big props to Hoka for this one because Hoka is a brand I like. They make cool apparel. They make really good easy running shoes. They have cool workout shoes. They're getting big in the trail world. They could not figure out racing shoes for years. Like you rarely see a Hoka athlete on the podium of a major marathon. And that was you need that as a top sports brand. You need to have a world beating or at least world tying super shoe. Yes. And so I got to speak with a product engineer. We actually met another product engineer from Hoka, Michael, a couple days ago. Very nice man. We had a good conversation. Before then, I met his colleague.
Shout out to Colin. Yeah.
Colin. I met his colleague, Sunny, months ago and asked her about, the elephant in the room. Is Hoka playing with these weird and new ATPU foams that are making these Adidas shoes so quick? And she couldn't quite say, but she said, well, we're in development of new things. Like we want our new shoes, next shoes to look a lot different. And this is already happening. Making a shoe is a 2-year-long process. And so I left our conversation thinking that they have something in the works and it's going to be on the feet of their athletes soon. And I'm guessing that, well, this was it. And I have trouble to believe that Alex Masai ran a nearly 4-minute personal best on a shoe that's kind of plain. I'm guessing that Hoka has a big player now. You need a big player to run a 2:04 these days. And I'm very curious to see what's next and if any of their other athletes are going to be wearing them. So I'll keep my eyes peeled for that. I think that's going to be a big step forward for them.
Yeah, they were kind of in the wilderness with super shoes, like so much so that I will give Mr. Sear credit. I know that he loves Hoka as a company and a brand. They're a good brand, good company. They make a lot of good products, because he was trying to be generous when we were doing the Rocket X3 review. And he's like, this is an amazing fast workout shoe. And I'm like, Alex, it's a super shoe. And he's like, this shoe is so amazing for doing workouts. I'm like, but what about for racing? Let's talk about it as a workout shoe. And it's like, okay. And it's like, let's talk about the Cielo. And you're like, I don't really want to talk about the Cielo right now.
Well, the Cielo is, I think, technically their racing shoe, and the Rocket's a bit more of a conservative shoe, which is where I was coming from. But yeah, I think they wanted to position it as a racing shoe, to which I was like, it doesn't have the gears of other racing shoes.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like taking a Volkswagen Jet out in the Nürburgring and seeing what it can do. But it looks like they got a good shoe now. I mean, they at least have a great athlete in Alex Masai. So
yeah, it's not all the shoes.
Or the athlete made them look really, really good.
Made them look really good today.
Yeah.
I hope that there was a really sweet bonus baked into that performance for him.
Oh yeah, I hope so.
Because he really he took Hoka as a road racing brand and put it on his shoulders today. And yeah, ASICS is a great comp for Hoka, because ASICS has really figured out in the last few years how to marry together sponsoring and partnering with some top level world beating athletes like John Korir, and having them be good representatives, good stewards for their brand, and then also making the technology and investing in the innovation so that they are at that bleeding edge and producing the technologies that those athletes can then do special things with. And then that kind of like it's a thing that Nike and Adidas are really good at and have been doing for many years. It's a thing that costs a lot of money, but if you can nail it like ASICS has in the last few years, there's a whole je ne sais quoi with ASICS where it's like, why are so many people wearing ASICS shoes? Why are they selling out the Super Blast? Why did the new Mega Blast drop? Just like those shoes disappeared off the shelves. And like, why does everybody want to be wearing the Metaspeed Tokyo shoes on race day? It's because their messaging and their storytelling is really, really good, and their product is really good. And I think if a brand like Hoka started to adopt that, they would have more success at the front of the race as well. Yeah. Okay. Closing thoughts here. It feels like we've been in Chicago for a million years. It feels like Alex left Chicago
4 weeks ago.
4 weeks ago.
Yeah,
and,
it does.
And we've the three of us have moved into this Airbnb, and we're just going to be here
forever. Is this our new place?
We're going to have to do a little bit of decorating, because it's a very Airbnb vibe to where we are right now.
And grocery shopping.
And some grocery shopping. Yes. Buy some lighting.
What, you guys ripped through the packets of oatmeal that were there?
Oh, please, Alex. That's long gone. It's been cereal and potato chips for a couple.
That's right. We're living like college kids right now. I've eaten 3 Lara bars today already, and 2 cups of coffee and some all-dressed chips. Okay, so yikes.
That's
I
the
need
diet.
to go eat some vegetables.
Yes,
at the
we
end
need
of this podcast. A lot of vegetables. So when we all come back to Chicago Marathon 2035.
Whoa.
Oh man.
I don't want, no, please don't even go
so
there,
old.
Michael.
And we're recording our live podcast in front of a giant audience at an amphitheater somewhere.
Oh, yes.
One can dream. We'll move from the little studio in the Fine Arts Building to the big theater in the basement of the building. That's going to happen.
Will happen.
But in 10 years, when we come back and we're like, 2025, that was the first year as a team we came and all of us covered Chicago. I was here last year and covered it on my own. But, it started this great tradition of Marathon Handbook coming to Chicago every year and doing some special fun stuff. What do you think the legacy of the 2025 Chicago Marathon will be for all of us who were here on this weekend when we think back, 10 years from now?
But it can be about us.
Well, it can be, if you want to get like syrupy. And
I always do.
Katelyn's like, I made this reel. I remember where I was playing a beginner runner and also an expert runner at the same time.
Yeah.
And it got a bunch of views on Instagram.
Exactly.
No, I think I always get like this, but you guys can talk the race and let me talk Marathon Handbook.
Okay.
This is just another huge, amazing step for us and a moment where we've all come together and we're doing new things and having just a lot of fun at it. And I think that our growth has been amazing. And now we're here covering marathons and hopefully producing a lot of really good content that is helpful to our listeners, and we hope that you're enjoying it.
More than helpful. I hope they're laughing their asses off. That's the whole idea.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm saying. If we're having fun, they're having fun.
Yes, exactly.
Cool. Right?
Exactly.
I would think so.
We're like we're being sneaky. We're doing our sleight of hand where it's like, let us entertain you and crack jokes while we trick you into following elite marathon running.
Don't you love it? Well, I think that I get like this, guys, because you guys see each other all the time.
Yeah.
And I don't. So
that's true. You get nostalgic in real time, and we've not even parted ways yet.
Right,
and you're like,
right.
This is so great. I'm gonna miss you guys.
Yes.
But we're all getting on the same flight at the end of this, and we're going to Toronto for a week. So you're going to be absolutely, totally sick of me and my weird ways by the end of the week. So you get to enter the Michael vortex, which is a different universe. Sear, what's your takeaway? You have full license to nerd out here. 10 years from now, what are we looking back on? What's Chicago 2025? Does it have a big imprint in the history of marathon running, you think?
I'm still thinking about how long I've been stuck in the Michael vortex. This is the history. So it's funny because in real time, to me, the thing that stood out was the respect for Kelvin Kiptum and his time. But I think in 10 years, someone will have broken that time. And we won't remember the Chicago Marathon as, the weekend that everyone almost ran fast, but didn't quite run fast enough. No. I think this is the first recent chapter, because this isn't unprecedented, but it's the first recent chapter of a North American resurgence in elite distance running. It goes beyond North America. I think there is a convergence of talent, or I guess a decentralization of talent, maybe, if you will, where, say, 5 to 10 years ago, and even now, you can look at the top marathoning lists in the world, men and women, and almost everyone reliably comes from East Africa, and most of them live and train in East Africa, to the point where you almost wonder if it's good for the sport that you can almost predict who's going to win the races. So this year at the World Championships, winners came from everywhere, which made things interesting. It's like that with every sport. For a while, all the good hockey players came from Canada, right? That's not that exciting if one country dominates. You kind of like seeing a lot more competition across the world. So I think we're seeing a bit of that in running. It's not just an American thing, it's a worldwide thing. But to see Conner Mance really contend with the very best in the world, I think is a precursor to what's coming on the women's side, on the men's side, in the marathons, in the 5Ks, the 10Ks. And I think it's just going to make running a whole lot more exciting. I have theories for why this is. We don't have to go deep into it. I think a lot more people know how to train well. I think a lot of people are going at altitude at different parts of the world. It's not only the Rift Valley in Kenya where people train. It's also Switzerland now. It's also Flagstaff. It's also Boulder, Colorado. It's also Utah. A lot of people training in Utah and running fast in Utah. And so that is going to make running a lot more exciting to watch on the elite end. And I think it's going to make people in North America, which is present of mind because we live here, enjoy the elite races a lot more because they'll get to know the athletes who are near the front a little bit more. And it's just always fun. It's more fun to watch a race when you don't know who's going to win.
What's in the water in Utah?
Purity, baby.
But
More-
bottle that stuff up and ship us out a case.
God. Yeah. What's in Utah is like a really good culture of running with some really smart people like at iStone and Nike investing some money in the training groups there, and a concentration of really talented athletes and athletes who started running with a road distance mindedness from a very early age, from like 18, 19 years old. Like basically the joke is at BYU, they're at iStone was preparing all of his athletes for becoming marathon runners once they got pesky NCAA running out of the way. Right. So I think in 10 years, when we look back on this, I think Chicago will have been the marathon before Jacob Kiplimo and Sebastian Sawe just absolutely threw it down at London 2026 and smashed the 2-hour barrier or whatever. And maybe that won't like be super fresh in the minds of every single running nerd, but if you start to think about the origin story of what will happen next, you'll come back to Chicago and think like, oh, Kiplimo like really learned how like the you've got to walk before you run, crawl before you walk before you run. It's that comp. You've got to run 2:02 before you run 1:59. I guess I cannot wait to get those two guys lined up for a rematch. The London Marathon, they love to spend money on elite athletes, and I fully expect that they'll be trying to align these two. And John Korir. Pull in John Korir. Pull him in. It's going to be tough because Boston's going to want him back bad. And
that's
there's going to be a lot of money on the line for him to come back and defend as a champion in Boston. But I'd love to see the three of them go head to head.
Oh, that would be amazing.
Yeah.
I think for the men's side the American side, I don't know if we're going to start seeing like, you know, a few other men running 2:05, 2:04, like we saw Conner Mance break through today. I'm not sure if that's even going to happen all that often over the next 10 years. But I think what will happen, if it's a 10-year time frame we're talking about here, is a kid who is like 15 years old right now in high school and is totally obsessed with running, is a Conner Mance fan and followed this today. They're going to be thinking about the marathon when they're 20 years old. And that might produce the next generation of incredible marathon runners. This is where this sort of thing begins. And I could see in 10 years' time, someone being in Chicago, being 25 or 26 years old, and on the verge of doing something great, maybe breaking Conner Mance's American record. And the very first thing he's going to say is, I remember when I was 16 years old, I watched the Chicago Marathon and it changed my life. And I think if that happens, we're going to see a very different landscape in American running in 10 years' time. And this is the kind of stuff that needs to happen for your sport to develop, to evolve, become a bigger deal for more people, right? And to reach more people and to become like entertaining and fun for people to watch as well, right? This is how entertainment sports grows.
That is so nice, Michael.
Yeah. That was nice, and also like kind of a critical, nerdy take, right?
It was, but what you just made me open my eyes to is just realize that Conner Mance is telling all of these young kids out there that no, it is possible.
Yes.
I'm almost getting on the podium of two major marathons. I am knocking on the door.
Yeah.
So you can too, and that makes it really exciting. That's a really great take. I love that. Yeah.
Other thing that came to mind, and this is sort of taking a step away from the elite thing, is just overall the experience of being at a major marathon weekend. We've seen this covering other major marathons now in the last couple of years, going to Boston this year. We saw this on full display as well. These events, and I'll steal this one from one of our podcast listeners who came out for one of the shakeout runs this weekend in Chicago. He's like, do you think that like major marathons are kind of starting to feel like going to WrestleMania weekend? And I was like, awesome specific comp, because my comp was like Super Bowl weekend. It's like Super Bowl week now. It's like taking over more and more days in the lead up to the big show. And there's all this ancillary stuff going on, all this media stuff going on, all these pop-ups going on. Brands are competing with each other and trying to one-up each other with like activations, neat things you can do, panels, live podcasts. the 28, literally 28
Yeah.
shakeout runs,
Yes.
at least that took place this weekend.
Mhm.
Actually 30 if you add our 2 as well. So there you go. 30 shakeout runs that happened this weekend. More and more. And the most insane thing, and I don't mean to give you FOMO, Katelyn, the most insane event I have ever attended at a major was this Nike relay race that we did on, oh my God, like
Friday.
it
I
was
know it was
Friday night.
Friday.
I'm like,
I
what
know.
night was it?
It's not here.
10
It's
years
Friday.
ago. Friday night, the
Oh, no,
3-1-2 relay, a 3K, 1K, 2K relay that Alex and Koske and I ran. And by the way,
Came
gentlemen,
in 6th place,
we
right?
came in 6th place.
Yeah,
in the men's
come on.
race.
You guys represented. You know, it's probably a good thing that I wasn't here.
Yeah, it was
You wouldn't have
good.
gotten
We did
6th.
really well. I'm
no,
like,
no. The co-ed, we could have done well in the co-ed section too. Although the co-ed section boosted a team. Nike had 3 of their Olympians competing in the co-ed section. It was Elise
come
Cranny,
on.
Ethan Strand closed it, and I can't remember.
they brought an 800-meter runner for the
Maggie
1K.
Condon. Maggie
Yeah,
Condon.
Maggie Condon.
That's not fair.
Yeah, brought like a 158 runner for the 1K.
No big deal.
Yeah, so that was nuts. We were like playing a little game all weekend, trying to figure out how much money that cost to put on. It was like massive 6 figures. Like it was spectacular. It was like a real like jaw-dropping experience, and stuff like that.
Great. Hope you had fun.
Sorry.
I'm just kidding.
So, now I feel bad. Stuff like that is like totally altering what it is to go to a major marathon. And to a degree, it's also putting some pressure on that kind of like next echelon down of marathon to like put together a pretty luxe experience for your couple $100 as well. So these events are turning into huge like festivals of running every weekend that they go on. And I think in 10 years time, when we look back, that will evolve many times over, and it's just I don't even know what to expect in the next 10 years. So actually, I'll plug something before we close out this Instant Reaction podcast. We're actually talking to I'm interviewing a futurist on Monday, which is tomorrow, right? Yes.
Yes, it's tomorrow.
Yeah.
It's
I'm
tomorrow.
talking to a futurist who is focused on the marathon and technology and running, and we're gonna nerd out talking about what the future of marathon running looks like from event perspective, from a technology and a health perspective. And I can imagine it's going to be a very different experience in 10 years, an elevated experience from even where we are now, which is kind of unfathomable, but looking forward to picking his brain about that. So we'll have that in the podcast feed. It'll probably pop up, I think, going into next weekend, going into Toronto. So that's going to be a cool
we
talk.
keep going, guys.
Yeah, we keep going.
Toronto's next. No big deal.
Okay, yeah. Close things out here. We the gang here, we're gonna hop on a plane, take a little 90-minute flight tomorrow morning, very early, 7 a.m. Koske, set your alarm.
2 alarms.
2 alarms. And we are going to fly back to Toronto, and then we're doing a boatload of coverage of the Toronto Waterfront Marathon. We're partnering with ASICS for that stuff. We're super excited about it. They've been awesome. We've got all kinds of neat stuff, including we're doing a live podcast in Toronto. It's been booked. We're doing it at, is it 4 p.m. at the expo in Toronto, I believe?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. We'll make sure that we will push it out in the newsletter, and we'll let people know. We're going to have our usual podcast drop on Thursday. And then we're going to, we'll do something special on Saturday on the floor in Toronto. And we'll push it out live following the recording in Toronto on Saturday. And we're doing other stuff there too.
We got a lot of stuff going on.
Alex is participating in a game show with Laura Green, which is going to be amazing.
I'm so pumped. I am so pumped.
And we're going to have so much fun laughing at him.
Yes, we will.
Heckling him from the audience. And we'll put up clips of that. And I think Laura Green has got an amazing Instagram. Follow her. She'll, I'm sure, be dripping out all kinds of good stuff from that event as well. And we're doing a bunch of other videos. We're doing, we're gonna debut. It's still kind of a secret, but we're gonna debut a new concept for a show with Alex. It's an interview show. It's, all I can say is hot ones for running will be the concept. And I fully anticipate it is going to be absolutely bonkers. We're going to film the first episode this coming week. So make sure you subscribe to our newsletter,
Yes.
marathonhandbook.com/newsletter. We'll put a link in the show notes. Follow us on Instagram. We're like pumping out the content left and right on Instagram now, especially for all these live events. Give us a like and subscribe to the podcast if you haven't already. And you're
Please
this
do.
deep in, do us a solid and do so. It's how we reach other runners like yourself. Follow us on YouTube because we're doing more and more live stuff on YouTube, and you'll get a notification of what we're doing on YouTube. We're putting out multiple pieces of content every week on YouTube. Okay.
Can we have breakfast now?
We can go have breakfast now. It's
It's,
only
1:24
p.m. Central Time.
You poor people. I already had lunch.
And Katelyn and I are going to take a vow of silence for the next 24 hours.
Yes.
Rest our vocal cords for this week coming up in Toronto. Mr. Sear, we'll see you back in God's country in less than 24 hours time.
I'm waiting for you.
But this has been fun.
Thanks for listening and watching.